One of the main criticisms I continue to hear from people over in the MAGA universe is that Kamala Harris speaks in word salads. But have they met Donald Trump? If you guys get anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. Now, Donald Trump recently sat down for a town hall over in Pennsylvania, and somebody in the audience asked him a question about what he would do for small businesses. And instead of giving a clear and concise answer, of course, Donald Trump rambled, because this is what we have become used to when it comes to Trump. So I thought this would be a good time to show you Donald Trump talking about small businesses, and then Kamala Harris talking about small businesses, and then we can really decide who is actually speaking in incoherent word salads. So let's go ahead and take a look at Donald Trump at this town hall, and then we'll move on to Kamala Harris.
What's your plan to help bring common sense back and help small businesses that got destroyed by Democrats after COVID and the Biden administration?
So, great. Because small businesses are actually bigger than big businesses when you add them all up, and it's very important. And sounds like yours. I would love your food. I can tell by looking at that guy. I think I'd like to go over there. If I'm over there, I'm going to stop it. The fact is that, you know, they want to get away from gas. And I have friends, they're into the cooking world. I'm not. I just like to eat. But they're into the cooking. And I don't know how you feel. It sounds like they feel that gas is much better than the electric for cooking, right? And they have this thing about, you know, they want to put gas out of business, right? No gas. You know the amazing thing? We don't have electric in this country, but we have all the gas you can use. We have oil and gas. That's what we have. And even the cars, if you look, they want to go with all electric cars. California's having blackouts every week, brownouts, blackouts, and then they come up with rules and regulation to go to all electric, but they can't even supply what they have. It's so nuts. We're going to get, number one, your utility costs. You heard me say it before. Your costs will be down, and we're getting rid of all the and if you want electric, great. And if you want gas, great. The only thing you can't have is a hydrogen car, right? You heard me say that, right? Because you know what happens? They have a new car, they say it's great, but it's got one problem. You know what the problem is? Every once in a while, one will blow up. And if it does blow up and you happen to be inside of it, you're in bad luck because you're not recognizable. Do you know that? It's the new thing, hydrogen. I said, no, thank you, I don't want it. I don't want. They called the wife, that's not my husband. Oh, yes, it is. It's no good. So if we get your energy costs will be down by 50%. Your interest is going to come down, and people are going to start to make, not only you, people will have more money to go to your restaurant. You're going to have a great business. And, you know, during COVID, I was the one that worked out the loans. I don't know if you got one, but everybody, so many people got millions of small businesses. And Linda McMahon was the head of Small Business Administration, which was a big business. But she was the head, and she was phenomenal. Linda McMahon was phenomenal. So many people tell me about her that she was one of the best secretaries. But Linda McMahon was in charge, and they loaned billions of dollars out to people with small businesses, and it was the greatest investment we made. It stopped us from going into a 1929 depression, which is exactly what we would have had, and she did a fantastic job.
She did a fantastic job.
We're going to get your costs way down.
Yes.
Thank you.
Holy word salad Batman. What was that? Donald Trump was asked what he is going to do for small businesses. He started off talking about we don't have electric, and then we're talking about cars, and then we're talking about energy and how we're going to get costs down. He didn't say anything. It was just a whole bunch of pointless platitudes. There was no substance behind the answer. He was literally, we're going to get your costs down, energy's going to go down, then more people can have more money to come to your restaurant. And then he started talking about COVID and how the, Small Business Administration was loaning out people money during COVID? I mean, that is not a real answer to the question. It is insane to me that MAGA supporters look at this guy, look at answers like this, and are like, yeah, he's definitely going to be better for small businesses. But he didn't tell us anything. And I think that is a problem. When you ask a question, even if you're going to deflect, like many politicians do, it should be maybe a concise answer that actually has some sort of point behind it. But Donald Trump was just all over the place, and he rambled. That was nearly 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and move on to how Kamala Harris talks about small business. She recently did an interview over at the Shade Room, and they were talking about her plans for small businesses. And let's go ahead and compare and contrast looking at Kamala Harris's plan.
Small businesses. My second mother, our second mother, who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are. For our communities, they are part of the cultural, economic, civic fabric of our communities. They hold the strength of hiring locally, mentoring, all that. So I'm going to change so that the tax deduction for a startup small business, change it from what it is, it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000 to $50,000. And included in that, knowing that a lot of startup businesses then have overhead around, for example, what they need to do to buy equipment. For those who are startup and don't have the connections historically, a $20,000 forgivable loan for them to be able, for example, to pay to set up a really good website so that their business could then thrive.
It might intersect with PPP loans and how, a mess, some people were involved with that, the PPP loans and fraud and all of that?
Fraud, listen, I spent a career prosecuting people for fraud, so we will take care of the abuses, but that's not a reason to not give people an opportunity to thrive. I think there is a real misconception that people just, and only their highest aspiration is to have a job. That's not where I come from in terms of how I think of it. The baseline should be everybody has a job. What we should be doing is creating incentives for people to be able to build wealth and build intergenerational wealth. But again, knowing that not everybody starts out on the same base, but when you give them a little bit to just compete, they will work around the clock, good ideas, innovative ideas, and when they have just that little bit extra, it gives them what they need to actually get in there, compete, and thrive. That's the $20,000. That's the theory behind the $20,000 forgivable loan for people at a certain threshold, to just give them the resources, like I said, to start up a website, to buy the equipment they need depending on the kind of business that they're creating, so that that's not the barrier to what otherwise is going to be their incredible work ethic and hustle.
Can you see how different that was? Kamala Harris started by acknowledging how important small businesses were to the overall economy. She talked about how sometimes people don't have the access to the capital needed. So she talked about $20,000 forgivable loans to help new businesses with overhead costs and things of that nature. She also spoke about changing that startup tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000. These are all real, tangible ideas that affect small businesses. And we compare that to something that we saw from Trump, where he's talking about energy and cars, and we don't have electric, and then the Small Business Association during COVID. I mean, these two answers are worlds apart. And in no reasonable person could tell me that Donald Trump answered this question better. Nobody can tell me that Donald Trump can talk about small businesses better than Kamala Harris can, especially when we're looking at these two specific examples. And this isn't anything new for Donald Trump. This is how most of his rallies go. He is a meandering mess. He can't put any through line through any of his thoughts. There's no coherent structure to the way that he presents any idea or thought. It's just a bunch of word salad. So every accusation is a confession with MAGA. They see that Donald Trump is struggling and answering questions, going off topic, so they have to flip it around and they have to accuse Kamala Harris of doing that. We see it every single day. There is something new that they want to accuse Kamala Harris of, but Donald Trump is currently being afflicted with that thing. It happens all the time. And I just wanted to point out one more thing before we go, and that is that economists say inflation, deficits, will be higher under Trump than Harris. So this is a monthly poll done by the Wall Street Journal. These people aren't in the bag for Kamala Harris, obviously. And they run this poll, and it says that most economists think inflation, interest rates, and deficits would be higher under the policies former President Trump would pursue in a second administration than under those proposed by Vice President Kamala Harris, according to a quarterly survey by the Wall Street Journal. So sorry, it's quarterly, not monthly. It then goes on to say that of the 50 economists who responded to the survey questions on inflation, 68% said prices would rise faster under Donald Trump than under Kamala Harris. That was up from 56% back in July. Only 12% of the economists thought inflation would be higher under a Harris presidency, while the remainder saw no material difference between the two candidates. And if we look at this graph here, it just shows how those... I don't know why this is not... Anyway. This just shows the graph between, I think, the July polling and then the October polling. And you can see here that it is quite a huge difference between the economists who think that Donald Trump is going to be worse for the economy in those types of metrics that we measure, inflation and deficits. So I thought that that was a pretty interesting thing. Obviously, I align way more with the policies that Kamala Harris is proposing. I think Donald Trump's ideas for across-the-board tariffs are absolutely insane and would be incredibly inflationary. I just don't think he has a really good grasp on any of these topics. And obviously, Kamala Harris does, and she's able to speak about them when she's asked about them. Unlike Donald Trump, who continues to show us every day that he is a rambling, incoherent mess, and he should not be the next president of the United States. But I'll leave it there. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. Like I said, I am trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate your support. If you want to see a further breakdown of more Kamala Harris policies, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.